Hello and welcome to What the Hey, where I'm your regular host of What the Hey, and today in What the Hey, I'm once again answering yet another question. When I go to my notebook of knowledge, I see the question of, who the hey is Chris Chan? Now this question comes from Jib, so hello to you and thank you very much for the question. From the get-go, I do want to let you know I did as much research as possible to get the condensed version of the history of Chris Chan thus far. All the things that I have mentioned, I feel like sum up the most important aspects about Chris Chan. There's a lot of stuff that I'm probably going to leave out, whether it's intentional or non-intentional. I'm just trying to get to the big subjects of the topic. Additionally, before going into Chris Chan's life, I know that there are a lot of aspects about Chris Chan that are very controversial and can create some heated debates. Specifically, throughout this video, I'll be referring to Chris Chan by a few different names like Chris Chan, Christian Chandler, and Christine Chandler. I just wanted to put that out there because I know a lot of people can get into heated debates about what to refer to Chris Chan as, so I'll be using a few different names for Chris Chan that are accurate to Chris Chan. So here we go. Famously known as the creator for both the character and comic book series known as Sonichu, Christine Weston Chandler has recently, and for a long amount of time, been in the news and internet spotlight, although not always for the best reasons. First and foremost, let's discuss the name, which originally was Chris Chandler, then it turned into Christian Chandler. And then through the love and practice of the Spanish language, Chris Chan kind of dubbed the name of Ricardo as well. And then the current and most modern version of Chris Chan's name is Christine Weston Chandler. Christine Chandler was born on February 24th of 1982 in Charlottesville, Virginia by the parents of Robert and Barbara Chandler. I'm probably not going to go too in-depth with the history of Chris Chan's parents. What you mainly need to know is that they had an extremely influential impact to Chris Chan's, I would argue, emotional health. When introducing the early life of Christine Chandler, what is mainly noted is the fact that Christine had a lot of issues with language and social skills. According to themselves and legitimate doctors' information on Chris Chan, they're an individual with high-functioning autism, which heavily impacted their younger years. According to Christine, a lot of their language and verbal issues were an onset through a babysitter that caused them some legit trauma with being locked in a room, which caused them not to speak for multiple years. However, with transitioning to different education systems and facilities, Chris Chan eventually did start to speak again and also participated in social activities, which kind of helped his mental health and overall well-being. Specifically, they had some early interests in areas like art, writing, video games, as well as participating in sports activities. And while growing up, one of the bigger interests that they had turned into one of their bigger occupations, which was art and comic making. I made a list on my whiteboard as well as on my notebook and a thing on my computer so I can see the overall history, and it's quite big, which I mentioned it at the very beginning, but what I'm going into and discussing now would be the topic and area of Sonichu. Now, Sonichu in its very basic form is a character that Chris Chan made that is a combination of two video game characters, Pikachu and Sonic. The actual creation of the character of Sonichu was on March 17th of 2000 when Chris Chan had to make a art cover for a favorite hits CD and he couldn't use copyrighted characters, so he created Sonichu. And pretty much after that, it completely snowballed because you had stuff like the origins of Sonichu, which was basically the introduction of characters like Sonichu as well as Rosechu. The origins of Sonichu was specifically released on April 10th of 2003 and dubbed the name The Genesis of the Love Hogs, which was basically introducing the romantic relationship concept of his two overall main characters, Sonichu and Rosechu. And then there were other avenues that Chris Chan went into, like Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, as well as Sonichu's News Dash. Christian and the Hedgehog Boys essentially was Chris Chan's personal created band about Sonic and his characters. And then Sonichu's News Dash was essentially updates and just important information that Chris Chan wanted to share with people online. And then of course you had the actual Sonichu comic, which was done around 2005, which further explained and showcased all of Chris Chan's creativity with his characters and artistic vision. Furthermore, that led into stuff like Quickville, which is basically one of the biggest acronym references to Chris Chan and a place that he created for his comics. And then to enhance his online presence, Chris Chan made an actual YouTube website account. It didn't last that long because it was made on May 8th of 2007 and ended on September 11th of 2008, so that wasn't too long-lived. What you mainly need to know about the artistic side of Christine Weston Chandler is the fact that a lot of their art and a lot of what they created was kind of a mode of expression for them, whether it was their actual views, how they were feeling on a certain day, or just whatever they wanted to create artistically. Which goes into my next section of this video, which is the aspects of Chris Chan. I feel like something that pretty much defines who Christine Weston Chandler is the fact that they are an extremely polarizing internet figure. And I have a brief list of words here that I saw while doing my research that a lot of people associate with Christian, so let me read those to you. To a lot of people, as well as Chris Chan himself, Chris Chan is seen as a racist, homophobic, self-harming, anger issue revolving person who has a lot of issues and opinions and interactions with women and general people that are very concerning. A lot of people claim that Chris Chan is probably one of the earliest examples of the incel culture, and I would say that's a pretty good argument. One of the things that I did not mention with the aspects of Chris Chan would be their noviophobia, which when I first read about that, I was like, what does that even mean? But then I was like, novio in Spanish is boyfriend, so boyfriend phobia is what that means. And essentially what that refers to is the fact that Chris Chan, through a lot of their life, always struggled and continues to struggle with trying to feel self-fulfillment and having a relationship with a woman. And a whole other aspect of Chris Chan is that at one point through their educational career, they would set up posters kind of advertising themselves, trying to find a boyfriend-free gal or girl. And of course there's so much to delve into and look into with that aspect of Chris Chan because they really did have a struggle with trying to be happy and feel good about themselves because they didn't have a girlfriend when they were younger and into their early adult life, which caused a lot of emotional and personal issues for them. But in general, you can kind of see how their views and perceptions about trying to find a girlfriend and partner kind of went into other aspects of their life because their fictional band about Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, they would write a lot of songs about their relationship issues and how they couldn't get a girlfriend. But the reason why I feel like this question was brought up in general was because of what has happened recently. To start off, Chris Chan has had a lot of run-ins with law enforcement and the police. There have been a few occurrences where Chris Chan has maced a GameStop employee at one point. Another instance was Christine and their mom running into a gaming shop employee with their car. However, one of the most alarming and recent accounts of Christine interacting with the law would be that on August 1st, they were put in jail for being convicted with one count of incest. And the reason for this came from the fact that someone found audio calls of Christine Chandler talking to someone about having incest with their mother. Recently, there was also a rumor that Chris Chan escaped jail, they broke out, but no, that was fake. Twitter just got really upset and crazy about it. For the last section of this video, I would like to discuss the documentaries as well as the influences that Christine Weston Chandler has had. On the lighter side of things, one of the titles that Chris Chan has is the fact that they are considered to be one of the first ever Let's Players. And the reason why that is because Chris Chan had an earlier version of Animal Crossing. They recorded some gameplay of it, they sent it to the business behind that version of Animal Crossing, and the business was like, wow, that's so cool. So people are like, wow, Chris Chan is a Let's Player. Now, one of the bigger and more research projects about Chris Chan is the 66-part documentary on their entire life. This comes from Geno Samuel 2.1, and I've watched the first couple videos and they're absolutely amazing. One, they're depressing because of who Chris Chan is and what they've done, but it's also amazing the amount of material that is included in those and the details in those videos. Each one of them is about 40 minutes, but it does not feel like 40 minutes. It feels like maybe 5 minutes because it's just so interesting. So if you want to watch something that's longer than this and way more detailed and probably way more accurate, I would definitely recommend doing so. Overall, the influence that Chris Chan has had has led to an extreme and insane amount of online trolling. The amount of detailed trolling against Chris Chan is so impressive and also very sad because there have been so many instances of people like Liquid Chris and other individuals who have put on similar personas to Chris Chan and made fun of him kind of in an entertaining but also very sad way. It's pretty obvious to see that Christine Chandler has a lot of mental issues, so it is kind of upsetting to see how people kind of take advantage of that, but it's also just very interesting to see how it has all progressed. There's stuff like the Christian Weston Chandler wiki as well as the Christian Weston Chandler Reddit, so if there's something that you want to specifically ask or look into about Chris Chan, those are there. And then there are actual examples of platforms that Chris Chan has used, like they still have a Twitter. It is up. You can go there right now. They also have a Facebook, a Patreon, and a Tapas, but that one's kind of not active and can't be used anymore. But there are a few platforms that you can look into where Chris Chan has actually used them, so that's very interesting. But in terms of my general opinion, I feel like the first instance where I became aware of Chris Chan was through Oni Plays, which that's basically just a YouTube channel where individuals come on and play video games, but a lot of them are familiar with very old internet history and internet personalities, so they're very familiar with Chris Chan. So I think the first time I heard about Chris Chan and what they've done and who they are was through that channel. But doing research on my own and looking through the different documentaries and everything has been very eye-opening. I think one of the biggest aspects about Chris Chan that I find so interesting is the fact that there is so much documented material on them, whether it be news sources or their own comics or online videos or interactions that people have had with them over the phone. There are so many just journals and information about what they've done and who they are and what they continue to do. I think one of the videos that I watched about Chris Chan said that Chris Chan is probably one of the most documented people in history, and I do kind of agree. But that's essentially the answer to the question, so if you have any questions, let me know and I'll get to working on them as soon as I can, but that's about it. So thank you very much for watching. Bye.